The Congress of El Salvador approved on March 17 a constitutional amendment proposed by the country's leader, Nayib Bukele, establishing life imprisonment for murderers, rapists, and terrorists. The president gained worldwide recognition for reducing violence in the country to historic lows, despite being heavily criticized by human rights NGOs and left-wing political movements.
Por tanto, con 59 votos a favor, queda aprobado el fondo de lo solicitado.
Minister Villatoro justified the initiative as a reform to ensure security.
Ahora, el presidente Nayib Bukele, su gabinete de seguridad ampliado, más el apoyo de la Asamblea Legislativa, donde está la legitimidad de la soberanía de este Estado salvadoreño que representamos, tenemos la certeza y la valentía de hacer y solicitar los cambios necesarios para que lo que estamos haciendo sea de carácter irreversible.
The case of El Salvador raises difficult and necessary questions. How far should the state go in punishment? Is life imprisonment legitimate? Or is it an extreme measure? In irreparable cases, is the death penalty necessary? In this 10-minute brief, you will understand what's behind Bukele's decision, and you will know the story of capital punishment and life imprisonment, as well as the complexities behind the limits of state punishment. The history of justice in the 20th century is marked by a profound paradox. Until the early decades of the 1900s, the death penalty was not a moral dilemma for most nations. However, totalitarian regimes turned the death sentence into a tool of political warfare and persecution. The trauma of the Holocaust and exceptional courts forced the world to rethink the limits of punishment. Europe, devastated by the political use of extermination under Nazism and communism, led a movement toward the gradual abolition of the death penalty, consolidating the idea that justice should not imitate the crime it seeks to punish. The use of execution as a method of extermination and political persecution by totalitarian regimes left a deep scar on Western legal consciousness. In 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, under the newly created United Nations, established in Article 3 that every human being has the right to life. This marked the starting point of a global abolition movement, triggering a domino effect across Europe and Latin America. From then on, the right to life became a pillar of international law. Europe began a rapid transition. West Germany abolished the death penalty in 1949, followed by the United Kingdom and later France in 1981. All removed capital punishment from their penal codes. But what seemed like an irreversible path toward the extinction of the death penalty encountered resistance from global powers that still see the maximum punishment as a pillar of sovereignty and public security. Liking this video so far? Hit the subscribe button right now then. Smash the like button and drop a comment below letting us know your opinion on Bukele's government and whether you support or not life imprisonment without parole. Despite global pressure, the map of the death penalty in the 20th century reveals a divided world. On one side, the European consensus. On the other, powers that defend its maintenance as an expression of sovereignty and a tool of public safety. According to Amnesty International's report, Death Sentences and Executions 2024, 55 countries still retain the death penalty in their legislation. Methods such as lethal injection, shooting, and hanging are still realities in countries like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Vietnam. Countries like China keep their statistics secret, treating such data as a state secret. Even so, Amnesty International estimates thousands of executions annually for crimes ranging from murder to high-level corruption, justified as necessary for preserving social and moral order. In Iran and Saudi Arabia, the death penalty is applied with theocratic rigor, often in public squares, serving as a demonstration of state power and morality. The use of the penalty for crimes related to drugs and political dissent reached historic records in 2025 in both countries. Recently, an Iranian national wrestling team athlete was executed by hanging after participating in public protests against the regime. Among liberal democracies, the main country that maintains the practice is the United States. The Supreme Court has reaffirmed on multiple occasions, such as in the case Gregg versus Georgia in 1976, that if applied under strict criteria, the death penalty does not violate the Constitution. The argument is based on the idea that fear of the ultimate punishment deters heinous crimes. The debate, however, is federal. While 23 U.S. states have abolished the practice, others are seeking new methods due to difficulties in obtaining drugs for lethal injection. Additionally, World Prison Brief data shows that since 1984, the number of people serving life sentences has quintupled in the country. Today, 1 in every 7 American prisoners is serving a life sentence. A new 2025 study revealed that when jurors in capital cases were asked to choose between life imprisonment and the death penalty, more than half recommended life imprisonment, indicating growing reluctance to impose capital punishment. A 2025 Gallup poll also found that, although still a majority, support for the death penalty is at its lowest level in 50 years at 52%. On the other hand, 44% of Americans oppose the death penalty, the highest level recorded since May 1966. For many, the abolition of the death penalty brought an alternative considered even harsher: life imprisonment. If execution ends life, perpetuity suspends it in time. Today, life sentences are adopted in 65 countries. Often presented as a humanitarian alternative, a life sentence without the possibility of parole, known in Anglo-Saxon law as life without parole, means permanent deprivation of freedom. This model, also known as true life sentence, is predominant in the United States and parts of Asia. In Europe, most nations allow sentence review after 15 or 25 years based on the principle of rehabilitation, a milder model grounded in human dignity and the possibility of reintegration. However, in places like the United States and England, life imprisonment can be literal. In England, the sentence is automatic for murder since the Criminal Justice Act of 2003. Critics and legal scholars debate whether eternal confinement constitutes a form of civil death, as definitive as physical execution, but without a quick end to suffering. But despite theoretical discussions, the practical reality is that the number of people sentenced to life imprisonment is increasing worldwide. In the year 2000, there were 261,000 people in this condition globally. In 2014, that number had reached approximately 479,000, an increase of nearly 84% in 14 years. Between 2014 and 2020, life imprisonment increased by 28% in South Africa, 50% in Thailand, 33% in Poland, and 17% in Canada. Today, in the United States alone, more than 200,000 people are serving life sentences, according to the Sentencing Project. The growth rate of this type of sentence has even surpassed the expansion of the general prison population during this period. In countries where the death penalty is prohibited, life imprisonment emerges not only as an alternative, but as a demand for retributive justice. Arguments made by scholars such as Cass R. Sustein suggest that life imprisonment may be more moral and, in some cases, more effective than execution. The central idea is that death is a swift resolution, while permanent deprivation of liberty imposes a prolonged confrontation with one's crime. The American Civil Liberties Union argues that life imprisonment without parole is a swift, severe, and certain punishment that provides justice for victims' families, allows resource reallocation to unsolved crimes, and avoids the prolonged appeals and moral weight of executions. Now, everything discussed here is only the surface of a deeper structural issue. The debate over juvenile justice, for instance, continues to evolve. In the United States, minors can, in some cases, be tried as adults for serious crimes, though the Supreme Court of the United States has imposed limits, such as banning mandatory life without parole for juveniles. Even so, the broader concern remains. How should a justice system respond to severe crimes while balancing punishment, deterrence, and the possibility of rehabilitation? Criminal organizations, like anywhere else, adapt to legal frameworks. The structure of penalties, whether lenient or severe, inevitably shapes behavior, and understanding those incentives is central to any serious discussion about crime and punishment in the United States. But tell us what you think. Is life imprisonment a good enough alternative to the death penalty? Do you agree with Bukele's measures? Leave your opinion in the comment section. If you don't want to miss our analyses on these debates, subscribe right now to our channel. Like this video and turn on the notification bell so you get them as soon as we drop them. You can also get the latest updates about our productions by clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code on the screen. Because you don't want to miss the chance to receive a special curation of analyses and productions that you can get by becoming a member of our platform. See you in our next 10-minute brief.